In the impression of the entire ancient Egyptian civilization, the name Tutankhamun. It should be your impression, the most profound Egyptian pharaoh, because whether it is science to this day, the unexplainable pharaoh's curse, or it was a gold mask unearthed from his tomb, in the entire ancient Egyptian civilization today, one of the most complex challenges. Hello, I'm the Gilded Minaret. Welcome back to my channel. Today, let's go through the way of food together. Enter the tomb of the Egyptian pharaoh. Explore. Why is he only 18 years old? Will become the whole of ancient Egypt, one of the focal points of civilization. In more than 3,000 years, the final destination of the ancient Egyptian pharaohs. Finally, they will come to this Valley of the Kings inside the tomb. But unfortunately, the Valley of the Kings bequeathed to the modern archaeological community. It's not a historical breakthrough. It's slice after slice, empty, awkward atmosphere. Because these treasures were discovered first, but it wasn't them. It was the grave robbers who were rampant at the time. So after years of looting, all unearthed pharaoh tombs, basically looted, even the mummified remains of some of the pharaohs still missing. And this is the history that the archaeological community most wants to erase. It wasn't until Wonder 92 that things got better, because at that time, fortunately, there is an archaeologist from England, Howard Carter. He was visiting clues to imperial tombology. He found this building by mistake. The pharaoh's tomb has been sealed for more than 3,000 years, and in the tomb of the fish that slipped through the net. But this valuable golden mask was born. Therefore, this golden mask, it has also become the only pair in the world, rare treasure, and the owner of this mask. It is in ancient Egyptian culture that the concept is familiar. Detailed Pharaoh Tutankhamun. Throughout the excavation of the tomb belongs to Tutan. There are more than 5,000 of Khamun's burial bodies. But what annoys everyone about this mausoleum is that his tomb with other pharaohs, the specs are the exact opposite, because regardless of the size of the tomb, the builder of walls or murals in comparison doesn't look like a pharaoh. Treatment. Therefore, there is archaeological work on this tomb. The more you explore, doubts become more and more confusing. Even this golden mask and the owner of this ancient tomb, most likely not for the sake of the picture, founded by Tutankhamun. Because there are currently 63 pharaoh tombs. The tombs between these pharaohs. The tombs are very similar. It is not difficult to see from the design of the mausoleum. Spacious tunnels and the structure of convex bedrooms is the unified tomb of these pharaohs. Tomb. Construction style. Without exception, including the columns and the content on the walls, they're masterpieces. So all this, it also symbolizes the arrival of the pharaoh in the country at that time. Supremacy. But the only thing that shocked our descendants was the only violation tomb robbers ransacked the pharaoh's tomb. It is in the tombs of many pharaohs, the most shabby exception. First, from the structure of Tutankhamun's mausoleum. It's not hard to see. The tombs of the pharaohs were big and wide. For example, the tomb of Pharaoh Ramses II. In this tomb, there are more than 120 burial chambers alone, even in other prisons. At this supreme level, there are at least more than 100 burial chambers. Guess what? How many chambers were there in Tutankhamun's tomb? As you can see from the floor plan, the tomb of Tutankhamun is only 4. It's not just ridiculously small, and the size of each burial chamber, also smaller than other pharaohs. Therefore, through the data given by archaeologists, the sum of Tutankhamun's 4 chambers, only 2% of the tombs of other pharaohs. Therefore, in this comparison, the total area of Tutankhamun's mausoleum is only 110 square meters. Place the current commercial housing structure. It's just a 3-bedroom unit. Therefore, as a pharaoh, there is nothing better than the adjective shabby. And when Tutankhamun was buried, and I found something very surprising. So let me show you this picture. Khamun's Guanguo. Guanguo is layer by layer, it's wrapped in a small gold shape, therefore, the space he occupies. Naturally, when designing the channel, have to be taken into account. But as the archaeological work progressed, archaeologists have discovered another one. Something rather embarrassing, because on the walls of this progress tomb, obviously found these rocks. The stone shows signs of secondary cutting, that is to say, judging from the size of the entrance to the tomb. At that time, the volume of this adjutant state. Obviously, it is impossible to enter this tomb, and the other tombs where the pharaohs were placed. Why did you find such cutting marks again? Therefore, under this clue, you get the idea. The construction of this tomb certainly not designed for the pharaonic level, and will go down. In addition to the small and narrow characteristics of the tomb, did you notice another problem? This is a map of other pharaoh tombs. Comparison of frescoes in the Tutankhamun mausoleum. Then, in this comparison, even a layman. You can also see the fineness of the workmanship. The left side is lifelike and exquisite. Contrast that with Tutankhamun's Suzuki painting on the right. He is not only rough, it's not even finished yet. So from this evidence, it is speculated that the phenomenon is not surprising, because it has been discovered so far. In the field of tourists and research, with such a high density of researchers coming in and out, whether it is air or spat from tourists' conversations will cause damage to these murals. Then, this explanation. The author doesn't know who is the smartest person summed up. They're all here. Is it for every tourist? Only the tomb of Tutankhamun. Is it worth visiting? That's obviously not possible, because from the content of Suzuki, other pharaohs' Suzuki content. Much more than Tut's Suzuki, and over thousands of years. The eyebrows are so rough. Here's the thing. These flaws were discovered, exists when excavated. So this is for a dense flow of people. There is no conflict. So that doesn't fit the symbolism of the pharaoh. Naturally, they all point to an answer, because it is very likely the pharaoh's tomb is only 110 square meters. The true master is not Tutankhamun. The owner of this mausoleum is most likely a woman. Why do you say so? Because for the ancient Egyptian civilization, the structure of the mausoleum between men and women is a very big difference. Judging from the more than 60 pharaoh tombs discovered so far, all the tombs where the official country is placed, both are on the left at the corner of the aisle, because the left side was in the cultural beliefs of ancient Egypt. It's about masculinity. So, the male pharaoh Tutankhamun. Why is this official country on the right? So combine all of the above. This mausoleum, most likely it was built for women. This is Kano, container of the crown. Perhaps it can prove the above view, one of the best evidences of the point, because before the ancient Egyptians made mummies, will solve the body prevention first. The problem of rot and bacterial growth. So, in the process, before mummification, the messenger's internal organs will be cleaned out first, and then put it in this canopus jar, and this canopic crown. They were carved to look like different pharaohs. This traditional approach. It is convenient for the legendary pharaoh to identify his own soul resurrection. So that's where the big problem lies. This crown was buried with Tutankhamun. The crown turned out to be a statue of a woman. It was not Tutankhamun himself. And here's what's even more intriguing. This one is currently priced. 10 gold masks by Zhao Meijin. At first, also, it probably wasn't made for Tutankhamun, because in the study, it was found that the name on the mask, there are obvious traces of quadratic map C, the name of the original owner. It wasn't Tutankhamun himself. It was his father, the brother of the prince of Pharaoh Akhenaten, and the queen's relationship with Tutankhamun. According to the current mainstream, he was Tutankhamun's adoptive mother. We're looking at the ears of this mask. You will find there are also obviously 2 large ear piercings out of the ears. In the face of this evidence, it's basically stony. This mausoleum, it's the tomb of Tutankhamun Yamnev's brother. Tomb why? Because in ancient Egyptian culture, only female masks have pierced ears. After summarizing the above points, let's analyze it again. Why did Tutankhamun get this half of the treatment? For the life of Tutankhamun. It's actually tragic because of his life only stayed at the age of 18. From archaeological clues, Tutankhamun died and was buried. Leave time for the workers to dig up Suzuki. There were fewer than 3, Moon and Mummy making layer by layer. The customs country makes funeral objects, and the murals on the walls of Suzuki. So obviously at this massive scale, young Tutankhamun most likely died by accident, so this is explained. Why is time so short? The 18-year-old minister in the cow, I dare not let the pharaoh go so early. Plan this stuff. So in the event of an unexpected death, the above doubts, including the roughness of the frescoes and the narrowing of the passage, etc., all of this may be explained proudly. Even then, the paint on the murals is still flowing down. The workers closed the curtain on Chow Chow and completed it. But such an explanation, probably not the whole story. Because of the same pharaoh, why is only his grave so shabby? And even if it's an accident, it doesn't necessarily mean that time is running out. It's probably not the whole story. Because in Tutankhamun's father, the last pharaoh, Akhenaten, during his reign, there has been an overthrow of traditional culture, vulgar reformation. He worshipped people. Thousands of years of polytheistic worship changed to a monotheistic system. And this list of gods worshipped alone, the famous sun god in Akhenaten. Under unprecedented reform, ancient Egyptian society deeply influenced by religious beliefs, the consequences must be unprecedented. So naturally there are multiple strands below. The forces that conspire to make laws. This mess directing was handed over to Tutan, who was only 10 years old at the time Tutankhamun, after Karman took office. Because of his young age, it's impossible to adjust to that touch and go, the peerless atmosphere. Therefore, his death was most likely not an accident. It's a long conspired usurpation of power. Although according to Tutan DNA data from the Khamun mummy, his parents were closely related and gave birth to him, caused him to have many underlying diseases from an early age. Dan, Je may have died at the age of 18 with him. It's not directly related, because the X-ray image shows Tutankhamun's head. There is a very obvious bone fracture. So according to experts, Tut was 18 years old. It is very likely to encounter a nasty argument. So the unfortunate Tutankhamun cracks in the head. It is very likely that he was stabbed at the time. Kill the fatal wound. Then, more coincidentally, after Tutankhamun, ancient Egypt soon had monotheistic worship system replaced by polytheistic worship system, so that whether it was Tutankhamun at that time or his father, Akhenaten, it seems that they have all suffered. The abandonment of an ancient Egyptian civilization. They are almost leaves no trace throughout the ancient Egyptian civilization, but maybe it's a blessing in disguise. Now thousands of years later, the tombs of the pharaohs where all the scenery was buried at that time, tombs have been ransacked, and only Tutankhamun's mausoleum. Because in this shabby hasty situation, it survived. And that's why Tutankhamun was the name of the pharaoh. Would be called the current entire ancient Egyptian heritage. Symbolic characters in the trail. Thank you for being here. It's not easy to do. Anyone who likes this video content, you might as well leave your little love to support it. Also, through your personal opinion, share in the comment section. Thank you for your support. See you next time.